Welcome to Satanic Saturday, where the fires of hell burn brighter than a lot of the souls we get on here. Some of the souls we never had. How's that? Welcome, everybody. Hope you're having a good weekend and stuff, everything. Saturday. I have a video I want to watch. Our friend Hank went on PF Young's show this morning. He called in and they had a conversation about mental health. And I have some thoughts, some comments, some critiques, some questions. So I thought it would be the perfect little thing to share today. Hey, Daniel Barry. Go check out Daniel Barry too to get the sports highlights. Do they do volleyball? That's the only sport that I like beach volleyball. I love like volleyball in the sand. And but I don't know if they have that on TV, if they have a sport for that on TV. What was I doing? Oh yeah, the video. Okay. I'm gonna go on mute while we watch this. 1 second.
And that would be great stuff. What are my thoughts on the men's mental health crisis? Not good. Not good. It is a lack of meaning in men's lives, in people's lives in general, I would say. But I think it disproportionately affects men. Maybe not. I don't know. But we'll see. Good morning, everyone. Excellent. Okay. All right. I see Hank in the background. 1 sec here. Okay. All right, Hank, I'll bring you on in 3, 2.
I'm on.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. This is like maybe on third time I talked to you. Maybe the last time I was here, you showed me about Gen X Jeff, and we've been hanging out since.
Nice.
So I'm back.
Well, welcome. What is cracking? What's your question or
so the last thing is actually a topic I'm interested in: men's mental health crisis.
Sure.
The issue with mental health is it's not even defined yet. We didn't define what the term means. So I have a hard time even agreeing that there's a crisis if we don't have the term even defined. So I asked psychotherapist, psychologist, what's mentally healthy or who's a mentally healthy person. Well, they can't tell me. They'll show me people they didn't diagnose yet, but if they find a diagnosis later, does that mean they weren't healthy? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's well, the word health is somewhat vague and undefined. Even if we don't talk about mental health, we're just talking about physical health.
Yeah, physical health. Health pretty much just means there's no defect really. There's like an idealized person, and there's no this major defect that prevents them functioning. Then it's healthy.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, well, is it is it healthy? Like, I believe there's a trade-off in health where it's something like you can sacrifice longevity for vitality, meaning like you can like, I think certain workouts or you can take certain supplements or whatever that improve your energy, but maybe don't help your long-term longevity as much, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So it's obvious. So and then when you take it to mental health, I don't like the term mental health is problematic, I would say, because it's sort of the medicalization of I would say a spiritual problem. Like mental health is because I don't think when people are talking about the mental health crisis, like, oh, well, there's a lot of people with schizophrenia who are lacking their medication. That's not what they mean. I think they mean people lack meaning, and that's a spiritual problem.
Yeah, which would mean this is a problem for theologians and anthropologists, not psychologists. It's not.
Yeah, or yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. And I think, you know, in the past, priests served the role that psychologists used to play. So, you know, I think that, yeah, the mental health crisis is fundamentally, it is a loss of meaning in people's lives.
Yeah, but meaning happens at the social level, not the individual level.
I think that's fair. I think it's hard. I think you can't find meaning unless you are embedded in a functioning social structure.
Yeah, otherwise it's just a detached dialectic, and then we need a certain amount of objects before we have meaning arise again.
Yeah, and I think the most meaningful aspects of people's lives are almost all related to other people. Even if it's making art, like even if someone sits in their apartment and spends a whole week making Destiny Champion spotlight videos, the fact that I think the meaning that is derived from that is knowing that you can share it with people, and you can share your perspectives and have it affect other people's minds. And then obviously relationships and family and all that. That's all social. So I think that's fair to say. Yeah, and I think a serious problem is how isolated we are nowadays. And I feel it specifically, you know, in systemic ways. Like, for example, I live in a commercial apartment complex. I don't know any of my neighbors live here in a few months. So so we used to live in communities. Like, okay, I bought this house. This is my neighborhood. I'm going to be here for a while. I have a stake in the community. Now, I think it's less common. I think that prevents people from getting to know each other. Now, of course, that's just an excuse. I could very easily just go knock on my neighbor's door and say hi, foster some similar level of community. But
yeah,
it's harder to.
Yeah, but the thing is, since travel is so much easier, you don't have much of a need to form a community to just be contrived.
Yeah, see that I've had this discussion with Jeff. I do not think online community is an acceptable replacement for in-person community.
Yes,
because there's so much more that you do in person that is not available online. Now, online community is good.
Yeah, but it's harder to get laid online with someone that.
That's true. That's also true.
Someone that's across the country, it doesn't work.
That's true. Yeah, and it's also just, you know, because I think it's not just talking to people; it's doing things with people, right? It's going out into the world and experiencing things and having shared experiences and all that. So yeah, it's a lot. Anyway, any other thoughts or point of contentions right now?
Are you familiar with political realism?
Political realism?
Yeah, also known as Machiavellianism.
I'm aware of Machiavellianism.
Yes. So pretty much in the political context, it's you can call it whatever Henry Kissinger was doing.
Like New World Order type stuff?
Yeah, except anyone can just do it. So instead of not just a shadowy group of people, just whatever group of people you're in, can just do the same.
Yeah, thing. Machiavellianism. Yeah, look, John Mearsheimer. If you're going to talk about, we're talking about foreign policy. I like John Mearsheimer, and I do think his perspective is correct on international politics is very Machiavellian. Because
there's no state in international politics because everyone's at the same level. There's no person to
adjudicate disputes between states. Yeah, there's no unified culture.
Yes.
So if people are not unified under the same culture, then the only thing that unifies them is mutual desire for power. Yeah. So
mutual desire for power, force, physics. That's the only thing that unites everyone because there's no arbitrator. There's no arbitrator at that level because it's an anarchy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, any final point before I move on to Jacob, the next caller?
Let's move on now. See you later.
All right. Thank you, Hank. Appreciate it.
Oh my God. Okay. Hey, Chris, welcome. Can you hear me? You're on mute.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I needed for the video.
I forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, I should have done it as a reaction video and paused it as they commented because I have way too many thoughts. I'd have to go back and talk about the different points, but I want to talk about the definition of mental health and health and all that. That's all the abstract and ideal. I'm a pragmatist. I work on mental health on a very concrete, practical level, and it's usually somebody having some kind of psychological disturbance in their life. Their functioning is impaired, their mood. You do have the actual organic mental illnesses like schizophrenia, etc. So whether the fact that there's no crisis because we can't point at something and say that's what mental health is a distraction to me. I mean, that gets us into nominalism and realism. But in the meantime, people are suffering more psychologically or profess to be suffering more in some degree. And that's enough for me to call that mental health. If Paul wants to call it as lack of meaning in life or call that spiritual, fine. But all of that is, and also the term mental health. I prefer the term mental health because the other term is mental illness. And I use mental health everywhere I can in place of mental illness. So,
Yeah.
and the alternative that they're going to in some places like Washington State is behavioral health, which I like even less. So I'm inclined to hang on to the term mental health for as long as I can because I'm not happy with the alternatives. The part about community, it seems, again, I'm a pragmatist, and I think some of these people are ideologues or I don't know, reductionist or maybe dogmatist. But as we've seen on here, and as I have seen for years doing this work, in-person community provides a value and a benefit, whether it's a
Froze up.
okay, I don't know if you can hear me. I'm getting the
You froze up
the
for a
low
second.
signal thing.
Yeah, you froze up for a second.
Okay. Let me wait for it to go away and then I'll back up. In the meantime, go ahead and chime in if you want.
I didn't hear. I only heard the very end of it, so I
Okay.
didn't.
Well, Hank called into PF Young and they talked about mental health, and I had some comments on it.
The only thing I heard was the community comment.
Yeah, the community thing. I don't know why you have to compare, like why one has to be better than the other. It seems so reductive to be that dogmatic about it. I think if in-person community works for the people it works for, it can provide as benefit as in-person community. I'm a fan of both. We're trying to create both. You do get different things from different ones, but maybe people's needs can be met by solely an online community. Maybe some people do get better. So like it seems more intellectually practical to be really flexible about it and look at it as an individual level instead of trying to pit one against the other and being so dogmatic about it and having to reduce the concept of community to we must figure out which one is superior, and it just seems to collapse everything into one mold. And I think communities themselves and people's need for community is way more diverse than that. And so that's my comment on this which one's better debate.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that it's a ridiculous debate in the first place. There isn't really any reason to compare the two things. They have similarities. In fact, they're both communities, but clearly online communities and IRL communities are going to be very different. They're going to have very different advantages and disadvantages. And especially Hank rolling it down to, oh, but it's easier to get, it's harder to get laid kind of thing. Like, I mean, I guess that you can extend the function of communities to that to a degree, but I don't think that's a primary function of community. I mean, a primary function of community might be fostering relationships, might be fostering potential pairings and but just for sex, for just sex, it looks as an opportunity for sex. I think that's a really poor negative way to view a community, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, it's coming from Hank. You know what his primary need, mission, goal is. I'm going to put the definition of community that I like and that I work off of is from Northrop Frye, and I'm going to put it in the chat. There we go. Genuine speech is the expression of a genuine personality. Because it takes pains to make itself intelligible, it assumes that the hearer is a genuine personality too. In other words, wherever it is spoken, it creates community. So for me, it's that mental connection between two people, that intellect, that conscious connection between two people. I've seen it happen too many times online, and as many or more times in person, to feel very confident in saying there is no necessary or essential difference in quality between the two. Some, like, wherever the person makes that connection from one personality to the other.
Yeah.
I don't think it's influenced one way or the other by whether it happens online. Like, people have been making connections through writing letters, through pen pals. We did it through phone calls growing up. I don't understand this false framing of as one being somehow intrinsically superior for certain purposes than other. I guess it depends on those purposes and those needs, but the way I understand community is more along the lines of this Northrop Frye quote, and I don't see it as being limited in one way or the other by whether it's virtual or in person. And then Hank made some weird well, the idea of, okay, the meaning happening at the societal level, not the individual level. The locus of meaning is the individual level. Chris is going to have a different meaning than I am, than P.F. Jung is, than Hank is. So if it's at the societal level, how do you explain the very individualized, unique experiences of meaning that we all have between us? Like the locus of the experience of meaning is obviously within the individual, and it's obviously subjective and constrained by all of the individual's limitations, preferences, desires, goals, dreams, etc. So to say that it happens at the society, or that's where it occurs, I don't agree with that. It is influenced by, like, my earliest memories were like 2.5 or 3 years old, and already built into those memories were an awareness of a mother, a father, a sibling, a baby sister, extended family. So I was embedded in a social environment at my earliest moments of consciousness. But I still had a strong awareness of an individuality separate from that. So to tie, yes, Hank said it's just an empty dialectic, but I think it is an empty I think it is a dialectic. I don't think it's empty. I think it's intersubjectivity, and I think that is the very nature of how human beings function together. So to again reduce it, write it off, and dismiss it as this barren dialectic, I don't. Like, I'm not coming from Hank's perspective.
Yeah, I mean, and meaning is the term meaning is such a broad term anyway. I don't even know.
Like, what's meaning for one person is not going to be meaning for another person. So,
I mean, we're talking about, like, meaning can be everything from a definition of something to the value of something. You know, I mean, it could mean 1,000 things. So just talking about meaning in that vague kind of sense of really doesn't really tell me anything.
And I had one more little thing that I forgot, but it'll probably roll around. I totally get that, Auntie, about definitely, because I'm like a hyper empath. I'm very open. I always have been. Like, just strangers, anybody. If there's a human in front of me, I'm gonna like make this mind connection. When my ex called it mind melding, he's like, I can't mind meld like with you like you can. And I'm like, I didn't know it was mind meld. Nobody described it as mind melding before. I guess to an autistic introvert, it feels like mind melding. But I know what you're talking about, and I do that instinctively, naturally. Like, I don't even have it's not even a switch I turn on. It just happens, and I didn't even know there was a way to shut it off. And so my whole life I've just been doing that. And eventually I learned that I can kind of limit how much I let that connection affect me, or how much I let it expose me to the other person. Because I'll take on somebody else's psyche and I won't even notice it. And like for days and days and days, I'll be thinking that I have these issues, or like these are my thoughts about things, or I'm stressed out about things. Sometimes this happens with coworkers. And then I realize, oh my God, this is the coworker one cubicle down from me, and all of their stuff that I somehow internalized and mistook for my own and started processing and working. That happens to me all the time. And so I have to be very careful about what's mine and what's somebody else's. That's why I'm so good at when people are projecting on me. I know exactly what's me, what I am and I'm not, and what's coming from them, and what's the projection part that they're not seeing in themselves, that they think they're seeing in me, because I know it's not in me. So it's got to be coming from their eyeballs. Oh, and the point Hank said about mental health better left to theologians and anthropologists. You know how many priests and monsignors and religious people my mom took me to growing up to help with my mental health problems and my gay, and I didn't start getting the help I actually needed till I was hospitalized at 16 in an inpatient facility and got psychiatric and psychological and professional help. So it depends. And Hank's whole orientation is, how do I get laid anyway? To him, a psychologist is somebody that can help him get laid. And if they can't help him get laid, then they're a bad mental health professional. So you got to take that into account when receiving Hank's thoughts on mental health. But it depends on what the issue is. But for many, many issues, I would definitely not rule out a psychologist or one of our modern professionals over. Like, if a priest helps, fine. If an anthropologist helps, fine. Whoever helps. Like, I always tell people, add as many people to your support system as possible. You can have multiple people, but have at least one of them be somebody kind of working within the paradigm of modern mental health. Like, if you need it. Like, I haven't used a therapist for years. I stopped seeing my therapist during COVID, and I've never gone back to a therapist. I've used peer support. I have a robust support network that I've built over the years. I have people I can call and turn to when I need, and that is sufficient for my current needs. If my needs get worse, if the life stressors increase, and I stop doing my self-care and my needs get worse, I may have to resume an actual professional therapist again. So it depends on what your particular mental health challenge is and what the best solution for it is. So I wouldn't rule out any of those people. I would just say approach it on an individual level. Hey Dom, good morning.
Since you're doing antlers,
that's all my thoughts on that video. That call in.
Since you're doing antlers all the time, I thought I'd switch it up, and now I'm going to do 80s headbands. What do you think?
The first thing I thought was Cheech and Chong until I saw the Adidas. Yeah. Cool.
80s headbands. That's the new thing.
I like. What's your shirt? Pearl beard?
It's a local Dallas band called Pearl Earl.
Oh, okay.
They're like this. They're an all-female rock band that does that do like old Black Sabbath type.
Oh, bro.
They sound like old Black Sabbath, but they're all female, and like they're really cool actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. You'd like
what you got going on today?
Well, I'm going to be, I spent that whole day the other day. I spent that whole afternoon fixing that screen, and then I got the car.
The green screen?
The screen and the touch screen in the car, you know?
Oh, yeah, I had forgotten about that.
Yeah. And so then I got in the car yesterday. I had to check something. I turned it on, and the screen didn't come on. I was like, what the hell? The screen's just coming on at all now. So now I have to take it back apart and see if like there's a loose connection or something. And then while I do that, I think I might try to actually install the AC thing since it's thing I can do sitting down, I don't have to actually, I don't actually be standing up or anything. If I get dizzy, I'm in a chair, so it's probably, I feel fairly safe doing it. I'm not like, going to be like leaning over the engine or anything. Everything has to be done from the inside of the car. So.
Oh, you doing that today? You said.
Maybe I don't want to do it, but it's like you should see the video. Like you see the video of the guy like doing it, like the tutorial I'm following. Like it is so. I mean, you just assemble the entire front end of the car, like the front inside of the front of the car. You take up all these panels, and then and the steering wheel, and then like this thing, and then this.
Just
thing,
to fix a touch screen?
No, this is a different thing. This is to fix the air conditioner. But since I'm gonna have to disassemble like half the dash to get to the touchscreen thing again. I thought about doing it the other night too, but I was like, nah, I don't think so. This time I figure, well, if I have to go back yet again, maybe I'll just try to fix the whole thing. The tutorial's very detailed. It's the exact same car, so.
Welcome, Joe. Speaking of anthropologists, what do you think of anthropologists as
TCPS
as solutions for mental health? Like, if you're having mental health issues, go see an anthropologist.
TCPS/Joe, I should tell you, I saw you on the stream last night. I was going to come on, but I was too sleepy. But I heard the voice, and I was like, I know that voice, but I never would have put your face to your voice, man.
Oh.
Like, that's not insult.
How did you picture him?
Like I don't know. I don't really know how I picture him, but like being like this, he looked like a stockbroker or something, Like you look like somebody from Wall Street. You're all like dressed up, and you're like nice and like.
Yeah, nobody wears a.
Like, I mean, like you look like a model, dude. You're freaking like traditional. You're like traditional Chad handsome, Like what the hell?
He's bougie. He's out dressed.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, what the hell? TCPS. I always thought. I don't know. I just thought you were going to be nerdier. Which isn't an insult either, because I'm a nerd, So like, I mean, I don't. I just thought you were going to be nerdier. I don't know. You look so like put together. I felt like that's TC. Damn, I feel like a slob. Goddamn.
I think that those are all compliments.
Those are all compliments.
I'll assume that.
Everyone was a compliment.
I'll take that as a positive thing.
Oh, it's all.
I'm gonna go grab a refill, and then I want to hear your thoughts on anthropology and modern mental health, because I can see maybe where looking how other cultures handle mental health might have insights into our modern crisis. So I'll be right back.
Yeah, certainly what I've noticed is that it's very much there's a reason why we're having a specific mental health crisis. There's a reason why we are in every way in a cultural mismatch. We're not doing things the right way. We're not doing things in a way that's adaptive or healthy for humanity. And we're bearing the cost of it right now with this, really at this point, pretty much insurmountable mental health problem that only seems to be getting worse with every ensuing generation. So my understanding is that we really need to look at what is it that we're not doing that these other societies in the past have done and have managed to avoid this problem. And particularly, let's not settle for anything less than the best, right? Let's look at the societies which seem to be the best of all at handling, the harsh struggle for life and its impact on the psyche with minimal negative psychological consequences.
Fair enough. And which societies are you aware of in the past that were so good at that? Because like my impression of past societies dealing with mental health were actually much worse than ours, and not to mention the fact that we have literally our brains and cells have adapted to, as quickly as they can, probably because of a technological landscape that's changing faster and we can adapt to it. A lot of these things like ADHD and everything can be traced, I think, to like our inability to adapt quickly enough to a lot of this stuff. So like, I mean,
well, that's interesting. There's sort of 2 points that you bring up. Number one, you say that that our our way of handling mental health issues were much worse in the past? Like, are you saying like in all societies or in some, or like, what do you mean by
I mean,
that?
just the ones I know about, just what I know about, like, mental. I mean, people that were considered mentally unhealthy. I mean, a lot of times, like, they were locked away, they were, like, of course, more modern times, they did lobotomies, they did, going back, they would, like, they would consider them. Sometimes they would get considered, like, to be, like, like their instabilities would make them, they get turned into,
They were
like,
demons. It was demons.
yeah, it's treated like demons, or they get treated like they'd be turned into like a witch
Call
doctor
in the
type
priest.
person, something
Well,
like
you're
that.
talking about a society societies that typically had a very like fundamentalistic understanding of.
Yeah, so which is why, the only reason it was what my original question was, which societies in the past handled mental health much better than we do today.
What,
Well,
real
I
quick,
would say the ones
before
that
I want to make a real quick. Hang on. I want to make a point about the video we just watched. They mentioned that there's no real way to measure or determine what mental health crisis is, et cetera, et cetera. But we do have suicide statistics, and they're heavily against middle-aged, white, working-class males. So we do have some kind of markers we could use as an indication of the crisis, particularly among men. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I would say that. So what you're discussing is basically, so it's like how would a society be able to integrate treatment in such a way
It's
that would
crazy.
actually be effective, right? Like, because
What do we do with our crazy people?
apologizing. The problem with Western society, and it does go way back to the Middle Ages, is this notion of like pathologizing people that for some reason are mentally deviant, right? But my point is that pathologizing actually ends up making the problem worse. It doesn't work. Our methodologies that we've been doing for centuries haven't worked, and that's why we have a worsening mental health crisis over time. And that what actually is much more effective is, rather than immediately treating the situation as, well, this person must be sick, there must be something wrong with them, you try to figure out, well, how can the society best serve somebody who's divergent in some way. And in a lot of traditional societies, that would be shamanism, right? Like it would be like you'd be, what our society considers a weakness might be a strength. It might be a sign that you're occupying a liminal spiritual position where you can be, your divergence from the norm is a sign that you're like a liaison, go-between between.
Right. Yeah. I said witch doctor, but I meant that's what I meant by shaman. I meant shaman. Yeah. Same type of thing.
So we should listen to our schizophrenics and take them seriously, or more seriously, as bringers of wisdom.
I would say that we should not immediately view them as just being crazy, and that there's nothing of value that they can bring into the society.
Oh, I'm not saying crazy people don't have value, but it's just like with the gender stuff. Pretending they're not crazy, I don't think helps anybody either. But you are right that part of what's crazy is culturally determined. Like, it's Western crazy. It may not be crazy in another culture.
Well, I would say, but even with, because schizophrenia is something that has adverse like consequences, right? But that doesn't mean that it's untreatable. And I think that there's good evidence that for most of these conditions that do have adverse consequences, the more effective methods of treatment are the ones that try to seek as much as possible to integrate the person rather than to isolate the person. I think that this idea of locking people in mental institutions is unless they're like criminally violent or something like that. Like, obviously,
here's the problem with that.
I agree with that.
I agree, but here's the problem with that, because that's the model they use up here. The community that you're integrating it into, if you're going to do the community mental health model, has to have the skill and expertise to help that integration to happen. You can't just throw it into a community that doesn't know what to do with the people. And that's what they do. In their mind, they think the community is going to come together and support. But if the community doesn't know how to do that, it doesn't work. So it's well-intentioned.
Right. That's the thing. You're right. The community has to be competent. That's the whole point of traditional culture preservation society, is that we need to look at the communities that are competent and doing things right, and not the ones that are incompetent and doing things wrong.
Which ones in in your opinion are the best at mental health, like doing community type mental health?
I would say any of the ones that historically had very low suicide rates, right? Like you could look at the Zuni, you could look at the Hopi, you could look at like most of the California tribes. You could look at various South American peoples in the Amazon rainforest. There's actually some villages up in the Andes that have been studied relatively recently using like modern psychometric tests and things like that, and they've turned out to have an extremely low rate of mental illness. Actually, there's a little island. This was back in the 70s, so who knows what it is now, but back in the 70s, there's a little island off the coast of Scotland called Lewis and Harris that was studied by a group of psychologists, and it was very much still like a society that was still a very traditional culture, even as late as the 1970s. And when it was studied, it was found that they were almost in shock and disbelief at how lacking in even like common neuroses and pathologies the people living there were.
What was their secret? All these cultures you're talking about, is there a common thread or some patterns we could gain wisdom from?
I would just say, like, I guess communitarianism, like a value system whereby everybody feels like they're part of something larger than themselves. They have that sense of solidarity. Like the number one biggest thing that can go wrong with a human being is the sensation of aloneness and isolation, right?
The lack of community, lack of being able to communicate, lack of being able to be heard, be understood. Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I went to Louisiana over the holidays last year, and I was so struck by how mentally healthy those people. I'm like, oh my God, these are some of the most mentally healthy people I've been around in decades, and they're very community oriented. They're always doing things. They talk about food. They talk about people. They tell stories, and they just seem they're not all of them are functional. Like there's dysfunctional patterns. There's alcohol and stuff like that. But as far as emotional and social mental health, they were some of the healthiest people I met. And that community part was what impressed me as the probable factor that made the difference. So
yeah, well, I mean,
I don't know how to do it to communities that are not used to that mode of doing things. Like I don't know how to get more people to be like the community I come from. But I agree that when you have those communities, they do have that effect. I've seen it myself.
Absolutely. I mean, I would even say like what's fascinating, because where I come from, Appalachia, which of course now is totally bombed out and just drugs everywhere. It's just rotten now. But like back in the 1960s, the then president Lyndon B. Johnson, he made a big deal out of trying to like integrate them into the modern world as part of what he called the war on poverty. And what he found was that it was really difficult because a lot of the people living in the area wanted to stay poor rather than give up what they had. And you know what? And they were right, because what happened as soon as the Eastern Kentucky modernized is it completely fell apart. And now it's one of the worst places for mental health probably on earth.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, modernity has wrought nothing but disaster for the Appalachian Mountains.
well, I'll tell you, like, I mean, there's even like the drive for community is so strong in people in general that I've seen it myself. And I mean, like, I would be, okay, this is total wild speculation. You don't take this seriously, but
okay.
I would
Thanks for the warning.
What's that?
I said thanks for the warning.
Sure. I mean, because it is speculation, but it's something I've viewed, that even people that get really involved in drugs and so a lot of times the appeal of the drugs is the community that surrounds it. A lot of the people I knew that did did meth or something like that back then, it wasn't about, I mean, I really don't think that it really was about that. I mean, yes, they eventually got addicted to the drug, right?
I hung out with the druggies. That was my community for a while.
But the community around that was what was the main appeal.
Yeah.
Like like this little family.
There was
they
a
had-
whole drug like lifestyle or like a drug code among the yeah, and if you fit into it, you had a community.
But because of course drugs make people more volatile, of course it would cause like conflicts eventually, and then people would get isolated from that, but they'd stay addicted to the drugs, and then they would literally lose their shit. They'd go off the deep end once they were isolated from the community, and then they had the drug as they took the drug addiction they took with them from the community, then they would really lose their shit. It's a really you can see that in lots of different things. Like people that get like people that get really involved in communities surrounded about anything about pop culture or about movies or music or whatever, and something happens, they get kind of ostracized or isolated from that scene, and like they really start to lose their minds because then all they have is this thing that they're interested in, but without the community that around it, it doesn't really mean as much. And like you keep trying to like fill that void.
Have either of you ever had times in your life when you were completely alone? I have never had a time where I wasn't connected to some person or community some way. Like I've never had complete isolation ever.
I have. Yes, I have.
What tell me about that.
Recently, in those last couple of years, like whenever Lindsay was in psychosis and I didn't know what was going on yet and stuff like that. Like she was like non-communicative, and like I was just like I was completely like I didn't have any.
And you didn't have family or friends.
I mean, I didn't know how to talk about it to any of them. You know what I mean? It wasn't like.
So it was kind of like self-isolation because you had the people were out there, but you didn't know how to.
Yeah, I didn't know how to reach out to them about it. I didn't know how to talk to people about what was going on. I didn't know how to like. I mean, I didn't know she had schizophrenia yet either. So like in my mind, I was like, she's just acting like an asshole or something. It's just like, I feel like it was just like, I already knew what like the answer for most people would have been like, well, maybe it's time for you guys to break up or this or that. And it's not like I wasn't thinking those things at times too, but I just it didn't seem to make any sense. I couldn't find any value in reaching out and just kind of like spreading our business everywhere or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I'm not saying I was smart.
Look at it now.
Yeah, no, I got past that. I just got past that. But I mean, at the time, I was very scared and very alone. And then there was another time period, like when I first moved to Vegas, I went out there not knowing anybody. I did have a couple of like people I chatted with a little bit online, but it was nothing you call a community. Yeah. It was a very occasional like chat with somebody on like Instant Messenger, ICQ, that kind of thing, and MySpace. But for the most part, I was house sitting in that house for a year. I didn't have a car, so I couldn't go anywhere.
And it was just you for a whole year?
Just about until like I got a job like in the last 3 months. I got a job out there walking this last 3 months.
Some isolation.
But I was isolated through like the holidays and through from mid-July.
Did you have people you could call, like friends you could call from back home, or say if you needed to?
I mean, I did. I occasionally talked to them online or talked to them on the phone and something like that, but they were all busy with their lives and stuff like that, and they didn't always pick up, and they didn't always, there wasn't always like, there wasn't always time for Chris. So
Someone told me after I lost Mike, one of my friends who's a therapist, she said, she said, you're in grief right now and you're going to need a lot of support, but be sure and spread your support net as wide as possible so that it's not always on one person's shoulder or another, and that it's spread wide enough where you have enough people that can manage it when you need it, but it's not going to burn them out. And that always stuck with me. It's
very wise advice. And like at that time when I first moved to Vegas, I had never been alone like that. I had been around my family or friends. I'd always lived with roommates or my family, or I always had like close knit groups of friends around. I had like a little family. I had started a little family everywhere I went, kind of a little family of people, communities. I always was like, and so that was the first time I'd ever been that isolated from people. And yeah, I went a little nuts a little bit. I mean, not like nuts like in a clinical sense, but like I was definitely going like kind of like stir crazy, kind of like thinking weird thoughts and stuff like that. I mean, it messes with your head like the isolation does.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I need other people, because it corrects my little distortions that build up when I'm sitting in my room all day by myself trying to put the world together.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, I was out in this little like. I had my run of like half, he had half the house like blocked off, but like I had my run of most of the house, the living room and stuff, and the kitchen, and then I had this little studio outdoor thing that was like my bedroom, and I would just like I would wake up in the mornings and like my only real goal was to write this script, and I didn't really have anything else going on. I met Lindsay kind of early on that, but she was dating this other guy at the time, and like we didn't really talk very much for a long time. And not until it was closer to like that year mark or so. So it was around the time I got my job that I actually started talking to her regularly. I didn't have any way to get away from the house. I didn't have any real, and it really was. I mean, it's the isolation is definitely. I could never tell anyone the isolation would be good for you or anything like that. I never like that book Walden.
Yeah,
You know, that like I
wanted to do that. I in the desert, when I was out in the desert or in the wilderness, the isolation actually became it became like a spiritual. I don't know. I had a sense of spirituality that I didn't get anywhere else. So but isolated in a society, like when there's people around, but you're isolated, it's a different feeling than when you're out in the wilderness by yourself and you're isolated among nature.
I guess I've never had that, but like I remember reading that book though around that same time. The first time I actually read that book was around the same time in my life. I remember thinking it was like a horror story to me.
Oh
Like,
my God, no! It's like it is. I'm not a very suicidal person, and I know how to manage it. The rare little brief things. So that's not really like my danger when things get too stressed. Mine is running off to the wilderness. Like I have to fight the urge so often not to just run off into the woods and try to build a little cabin or run off into the desert. Like if I decide I ever can't cope with the world, that is my temptation, is pulling a Thoreau or the Into the Wild guy, which I was going to do. And then I found out that he died, and that like put the brakes on it. I said, oh, I better
did you see
maybe
that
let me
movie?
be more smart about this.
Did you see the movie?
Yeah, I actually didn't like the movie. I didn't think the acting was very good in the writing. And I wish they had done more with the literature that he was reading, like Emerson and Tolstoy, because that was a lot of the stuff I read too. And so I related to him there. I just didn't think that they emphasized that enough.
I don't know. I need people myself. I don't think there's anything that running off to the woods of the desert or something that's nothing.
I could do it with internet connection.
Yeah, I at least I want the energy. I mean, if anything else, I want the energy. I like the energy of being in a city more than being out in the country as it is. I like the.
Yeah, but I was also in healing mode too, and so it helped.
Okay,
It's
no,
what
that's a
started
little
the healing around. And eventually, that's what happened. That is exactly what happened. I was wanting to do it permanently because I was getting so much healing from being out there. And I talked to my good friend in New Orleans, and he's the one that convinced me to like try to rejoin society, like come back to Louisiana. I would get a job. I would reintegrate into civilization. That was the best path. And he's the one, because I trusted him, and he built up a lot of credibility with me over the years. So his opinion carried a lot of weight, and he might have been the only person that could have reached me in that way at that time. And he's the one that convinced me to re-enter civilization, because I also, that movie The Beach, I was watching that a lot too. So I just wanted to be away from civilization, away from people, away from the modern world. And that's what I did. I went back to New Orleans. I got the job, and I got established and stabilized as a member of society again. And I've been trying to stay here ever since and not run back out into the woods.
I'll respect anybody that can actually do that. It's just not something I can do.
Yeah, it's a certain type. Yeah, it's definitely a certain type. And I'm much more I guess attached or enmeshed with people now than I was back then. So now I have more reason not to go off in the woods. Oh my God, Auntie, I didn't know you were dealing with all that. Wow, I'm sorry. Well, any other thoughts on community mental health or any kind of
Yeah, I have tons of
mental
thoughts on
health or
community.
community or any topic at all? Oh, I didn't turn the banner on.
I mean, I mean, like that's. I mean, seriously, that's like one of the main things I think about. Like, you know, there was that meme going around of like where people like there's like that like you know these girlfriends and wives asking their husbands or their whoever their significant others, men in their life, like how often they think about the Roman Empire, you know, and it's like
Oh yeah.
yeah. And like I remember I see when I was like the only time I ever think of the Roman Empire is when I see one of these fucking videos where people keep talking about the Roman Empire. That's the only time I think about it. But like if you ask me how often do you think about community building and its effects on mental health and society and the importance of it, you know, I would be like, oh, like I don't know, like all the time, every day. It's like the main thing I think about.
Yeah, Provo's right. That's Jordan Peterson's mental health advice. Clean your room, kid.
My room isn't actually as dirty as you think it is.
And we don't want him cleaning his room anyway, because with the vertigo, it puts him at risk.
But
He's
it's
trying
actually
to like get enough income to hire a little Mexican maid to come and take care of it for him.
But it's actually everything that's set up here right now is because earlier today I was doing a test of I was doing a streaming test for I was see if I could stream from my Xbox 360 through my capture card and stuff like that. And I
I'm
did like
actually the one that needs that advice, Provo, because I don't. I clean my room about once a year. Usually, if companies come in, and like if I have a reason to. Otherwise, there's a certain level of mess that I'm able to tolerate, and I do tolerate it, and so it rarely gets clean. And I should get better about that, but I'm just not motivated to. And so that advice really should go to me, and maybe one day I will be able to take it. Oh, you're going into the hospital? Oh, um, I sometimes there's like if you're working with a patient care coordinator or a liaison or something, sometimes they have like they can help you get these kind of things set up or refer you to agencies that might be able to help with that. Did you now? Okay. Well, okay, that's the room. Now the next thing is your temple, your body, your physical temple. Get you all polished up. They love to polish up the autistics.
so Andy, like where you're I don't know you don't have to give me any specifics. You don't have to tell me states or what state do you live in? Like, because I know a little bit about a little bit enough states. I know a little bit about some of the services they offer in a few different states. I mean, I don't know that many, but like I could certainly help like research it for you or something and see if I can help you find a way to get your dog taken care of or something like that. That you know, like there's bound to be some sort of service for people that are in the hospital like that. You know, to keep the dog fed for or a kennel that will take care of it for free or something. Uh,
Oh, well, nice. So there is some good, some positives in all this. Good. Well, you know we're rooting for you, so I hope it goes as good as it can go.
yeah.
What's
But I mean,
on the menu today, Chris?
I told you I'm going to be
Oh, you're doing that car thing.
do the car thing. Yeah.
Well, that
Not
sounds
really
fun,
looking.
actually, if you like that kind of stuff.
I like working on computers and stuff. I've never liked working on cars. Like I get very nervous about like breaking them because they're much more
Why are
like
you motivated to do it?
because the heat here is just right now it's getting like it's getting really bad and like that I have the part and I don't know at this point like you know they keep putting us off on the thing so I have no idea when the money you know we'll ever get the money to actually get it done so it just needs to be done. It's just like I fixed the touchscreen and it did work. It really honestly it wouldn't have even occurred to me to do it if it weren't the screen went out. Now I'm like okay I have to undo all this stuff. I just rebuilt this whole front end inside of it the other day, and like I was like halfway to where I needed to be to fix that thing whenever I did that. So now if I'm gonna have to take this thing apart again, I might as well go all the way and just fix the what's it called, the evaporator. I mean, I have the part. It's in the back of the car. I just have to like get to it and install the new one, and then I'll have to buy some Freon. And
You could stream it and do like a how to.
I don't know how to stream it. I don't know how to hold the camera and
It
everything.
would probably just be like your shoulder on the ground or something.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, like I honestly believe that, in my heart of hearts, I think that the core of most of the mental health issues, the core of the number of people, like the core of the.
Was it Frank? Are you doing monkey drag now? Was that you?
No, we watched this movie called Monkey Man last night, and there's like this weird drag queen scene in it.
Oh, I forgot what I was gonna say. What do you want to go get that started, and then maybe tonight we can watch something?
Yeah, I mean, it's that's fine. I mean, I got nothing more to say except the same stuff of mental health and communities.
Yeah, it looks like a slow day. I think we covered a lot. That was a good topic, and we covered a lot in a short amount of time. So this might actually be like a nice, concise, succinct stream for people to get into what, like maybe it could be an introduction. All right. Well, we're gonna end it early today. It seems like a slow Saturday. So I hope you have a good one.
Yeah,
very possible there'll be an evening stream. There has been lately. We'll be doing stuff in the Discord. Chris will be fixing his car. Oh no, Auntie, absolutely, you're not a bummer.
You're not a bummer at all, man.
My God, all the stuff you're going through, to be able to express it is.
I mean, I'm going through a lot of shit too, Auntie. Like my life is also I'm not trying to compare. Like I'm not trying to say well, mine is worse than your. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying, I understand. Like I know it's like going through a bunch of chaotic bullshit like that in your life.
And I'm headed into rough waters myself if I don't find a way to turn it around. So I sit up here all calm and collected and stuff, but I'm not without challenges either.
Yeah, same thing.
Frank, that might be good.
You told me that on the.
Let's do that.
The other day, like that, I come across.
Yeah, we had a roommate move out, and now that made everything go up because now there's two of us. Or if we find another roommate, that'll also solve the problem.
It seems like
so it made all the expenses go up until we figure out my income goes up or we find another roommate. So
it seems like it wouldn't be too hard to find a roommate out there in out in that part of the country. It seems like aren't there housing crises and stuff out there? Like, isn't there hard to find places to live?
Yeah, I don't think it would be that hard either. We want to be a little. We want it to come from an existing community. We just don't want a stranger off the internet. So we're trying to do it
you want to watch
a little more intentionally.
I did download Population 436, Auntie. I haven't watched it yet. I have. The only thing I've watched recently was.
I don't have a
late night with the devil.
I barely have room in my closet for my stuff. Yeah.
Don't rent to it directly.
We'll rent to anybody whose money works and that is able to live maturely with. This is a neurodivergent household, so they have to be able to live. That's what was cool because the three of us were all neurodivergent and we all knew each other's quirks and patterns, and it was at a very stable level where we just operated smoothly without a lot of friction because we recognized all the neurodivergent traits that we all shared. And so it's going to have to be somebody that can integrate into that, which usually involves everybody being in their own room with their computer and their video games, their headphones, hardly ever interacting. So it's very easy, actually. Population 436.
Yeah, we'll check it out. We'll check it out here the next day or so, maybe. Like I said, I downloaded it, so.
Anyway.
All
All right,
right. Well, we'll send you off to enjoy your weekend and look for us this evening or tomorrow, for sure. Tomorrow, probably this evening. Can't think of a reason why I wouldn't do a
I
stream
mean,
unless
it's Saturday, so like, what machine will be streaming?
Yeah, we got TML tonight. Flo's usually streaming. I think Talcott streams on weekends. Well, that is your right as a Canadian, maybe not. But that's certainly my right as an American. So,
all right.
nah.
Good night, everyone.
All right, see you later, Chris. And take care, everyone. Thanks for joining. I think we had a good little stream. It was quality over quantity today. It was content heavy. I recommend everybody watch it, like, subscribe. They tell me if you hit share and copy the link, that does something. But more than anything, just spread the word. Bring a friend. Like, if everybody brings a friend, that'll double our number right there. So, but more than anything, just keep showing up. That's really that's all it takes for me to keep going. So thank you all. Frank, yeah, that sounds good. I'll be there in a couple of minutes. And Chris fixed for car repairs. That I would like to see, like, car repair for ADHD people. Like, because the ordinary ones are real orderly and systematic and organized. You do this and this. I want to see the ADHD version where they do this step and they forgot to do this step. And they have to go back and do that step, and then it throws off this step. So they need somebody that can help people navigate that. All right. I will see y'all later, and have a fantastic weekend. Make it good. Do something good. Use your agency. You can turn it around just a little tiny, like one little ray of sunshine in it somehow different. So I wish you all the best. We'll see you. Oops, wrong music. Sorry. Production error. There we go. Take care.